Hello, my name is Susie Park, and I serve as the Budget Director for the City of Chicago. We are excited to be back with all of you for our 4th year of budget engagement. Since 2019, the Office of Budget and Management and Mayor Lori Lightfoot have hosted dozens of town halls, roundtables, Facebook Lives, and forums to talk to our residents, businesses, community-based organizations, and community leaders about what they want to see in their neighborhoods. More than 100,000 Chicagoans have participated in these engagement efforts over the last 3 years. This year, just like in past years, community engagement will help guide us as we continue to provide the services our residents need while keeping the city on a course towards a stable and sustainable financial future. Since 2019, the city has invested more than $2 billion in new and ongoing key investments as a result of community feedback. These are more than just numbers. They represent real lifelines, programming, resources, and yes, money that will reach our residents, and we know it's making a difference. In order to ensure that we are able to continue addressing the priorities of our residents, we need to continue conversations like the ones we are having today, which allow us to keep learning and make sure that your feedback is incorporated into the upcoming 2023 budget. Today, we are circling back to report out on the progress we have made so far this year and provide you an opportunity to discuss your ideas directly with our decision makers. Thank you for being part of this important work. Next, you will hear from some of our city leaders who will provide an update on some of the key initiatives that last year Chicago residents told us were priorities.
Our work for 2023 really began last year. In December of 2021, we announced our largest ever funding round, $1 billion. It's the most we have ever been able to do by far, almost double our last funding round. And it was made possible in part by the Chicago Recovery Plan. So with that, we were able to make commitments to 24 developments. That's about double anything we've done before. And we are now moving those deals forward into communities across the city. One of the things I'm most excited about, of the 24 developments, 12 of them are near transit on the south and west side. That's never been done before. Coming up into 2023, we will be issuing another funding round. And we're so thrilled that the work that we've done on a racial equity impact assessment will impact yet again the developers we're working with. We want them to reflect the people that live in these communities and will reflect the ability for people to choose where they want to live across this entire city. We look forward to enacting the 24 developments that we announced funding for in December and to announcing a new funding round. In the spring, we will be putting out another call for proposals. And it's important to us to note that that proposal will be influenced by the racial equity impact assessment that we did last year that really guides our developments to ensure that we're equitably investing across the city, across neighborhood types, and giving people as many choices and options in where they can live affordably as possible.
DFSS is dedicated to making homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. As we navigated the COVID-19 pandemic, the department prioritized keeping homeless individuals safe by opening up 9 alternate shelters, changing the configuration of our congregate shelters, and moving people to permanent housing as quickly as possible. Through rapid rehousing programming, DFSS helps thousands get off the streets and out of shelters into safe, stable homes. Mayor Lightfoot's focus on housing-first solutions has helped DFSS increase the resources necessary to help individuals get housed and remain housed. In August 2020, we launched a rental assistance platform that allows us to connect with thousands of residents facing housing insecurity. We have seen great success improving our process and making this funding available to persons who are struggling to make ends meet. Since 2019, these investments have also increased our capacity to help individuals move from streets and into homes. Starting in 2020, DFSS began investing $35 million to launch the Expedited Housing Initiative, which brings housing services directly to individuals experiencing homelessness. Since 2020, over 1,764 households have moved into housing from shelter or encampments. The department will also invest in similar strategies that support other vulnerable populations in which housing becomes a key factor, including a new $4.5 million investment through the Chicago Recovery Plan dedicated to helping survivors of gender-based violence with housing and supportive services. Housing is a fundamental right. Our dedication to individuals who are homeless or housing insecure has grown dramatically over these last years, and we will continue to build strategies with our sister agencies that focus on housing-first solutions.
At the Chicago Department of Public Health, obviously the last few years have had a lot of attention on COVID, but also we have been working very hard to expand behavioral health resources for Chicagoans, regardless of income, ability to pay, insurance status, or immigration status. To give you one example, if you look at 2019, our whole budget for mental health services was $12 million a year. And we were serving about 3,600 Chicagoans with clinical-based mental health services. This year, our budget has increased from $12 million to $89 million, but more importantly, we've gone from serving 3,600 Chicagoans all the way up to this year, we're on track for 60,000 Chicagoans. And that's just for clinic-based mental health services. We've worked with partners, 50 of them across the city, and by the end of the year, we anticipate having at least one site in all of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods where people can get clinic-based care without barriers. But we've also been working to bring mental health services outside of the walls of clinic. This is an important and critical role for city government to play, whether that's embedding mental health professionals in the 911 response system for the first time, whether that's doing more outreach, bringing mental health and substance use care to individuals experiencing homelessness or on the CTA, whether that's working to make sure people who have more serious mental illness and have trouble keeping outpatient appointments can get care without needing to have appointments, whether that's linking children who have needs that can't be met in the school system to higher levels of care. We're growing and continuing to grow mental health, substance use, and violence prevention resources.
The 2023 budget is a tool for us to be able to implement that public health approach. It ensures that we have investments in infrastructure, expansions of access to mental health, but also continues to fund an extraordinary expansion of violence prevention programming started by the mayor to ensure that we have a civilian infrastructure in place preventing violence before it occurs. The CSEC's budget also includes new funding to implement innovative approaches to violence prevention. This includes funding marketing campaigns to address the need for more education around the root causes of violence and the approaches that are necessary, as we all have a role to play in violence prevention.
The Chicago Police Department is always working to strengthen public safety across every neighborhood. Over the past few years, we've been working to identify areas in which we can improve safety for everyone in Chicago. In addressing violent crime, we've been strategically deploying resources and focusing on what's driving crime in our city. This year, we identified the top 55 police beats where more than half of the city's violent crime is occurring. Through precision deployment, including personnel and resources, we've seen a consistent reduction in homicides and shootings within these areas. Public safety is equal parts law enforcement and community engagement. The department maintains important programming like the Neighborhood Policing Initiative, the Police Arts and Athletic League. The Neighborhood Policing Initiative is a critical part of our community engagement strategy. Its funding will support additional resources so that we can expand from 10 districts to all 22 districts within the police department, which has played a critical role in engaging the public and building trust.
At DFSS, we recognize our responsibility in ensuring that young people have access to experiences that will help them explore their interests, develop their passions, and build their own pathways to the future. The Chicago Youth Service Corps was designed in 2020 as a civic leadership engagement program to specifically support young people who wanted to make a difference in their communities and develop solutions to problems they were facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, the Chicago Youth Service Corps youth has leveraged their talents to address systematic racism, create podcasts to spark social dialogue, raise social awareness on the importance of mental health, and organize food drives to combat food insecurity. Overall, the program connects young people with their communities, showing just how important their role as civic leaders can be. Through a $29.2 million Chicago Recovery Plan investment, the Service Corps is now a 40-week program that will serve over 3,500 youth through 2024. Through our One Summer Chicago program, over 19,500 Chicago youth between the ages of 14 to 24 are embarking on their own summer opportunities this year. For 6 weeks, Chicago's youth will further connect to pathways in fields like healthcare, media, technology, and more. Thanks to Mayor Lightfoot's $24.2 million investment into career exploration, wages have increased year over year. All of our youth employment and enrichment opportunities can now be found through the My Chi, My Future mobile app. Residents can go to explore.mychimyfuture.org. We will continue to ensure young people have meaningful work experiences throughout the year and provide resources, putting them on a path to earn increased sustainable wages in high-demand careers.
In 2022, we also saw a really important increase in DCASE's budget of $26 million, thanks to the support of Mayor Lightfoot and our elected officials. That included a first-of-its-kind $10 million allocation from the city's corporate line item to help stabilize our department from the fluctuations in the hotel occupancy tax, which is how we are primarily funded. We also saw a $16 million influx of funds from ARPA to help us again help the creative sector, both individuals and organizations, recover from the pandemic. That ARPA investment included one of our signature programs that we launched just recently called Together We Heal, which is a partnership with the Office of Racial Equity and Justice to fund projects in neighborhoods that are really at the intersection of arts and culture and community health and healing. So we're looking at how arts can really help to stabilize communities and help them grow and help them prosper.
And 2019 is when we started work on the strategic plan for transportation for the city. And that's our shared roadmap. That's safer streets, that's better infrastructure, that's better transit service, it's bus lanes, bike lanes, and so much more that make our neighborhoods vibrant and make it as easy as possible for you to move around the city. So we've done a lot since then. You saw our expanded outdoor dining, shared streets, open boulevards programs, these kinds of activations that really put our streets in service of what communities need and want, and also help local businesses to survive and thrive. Since 2020, we have resurfaced hundreds of miles of streets and alleys. And in fact, by the end of this year, we'll have delivered over 530 miles through the Chicago Works program. This includes over 120 miles of new bikeway infrastructure. This also includes an enormous amount of improvements towards safety, and that is a high priority for us. One of the things that is really important to us is making sure that our corridors in neighborhoods are those complete streets. That means all of those pieces of sidewalks and lighting and benches and plantings, all the things that make it great and vibrant and safe.
In 2022, through the Chicago Recovery Plan, Mayor Lightfoot announced $188 million in climate and environmental justice priorities. This is the single largest investment of its kind in the city's history. Through these investments, the City of Chicago will plant 75,000 trees over the next 5 years in communities that need them the most. We will get a jump start on electrifying the city's fleet, and will also advance more low-carbon mobility options and make it easier for Chicagoans to walk, bike, and take public transit. We will invest in new green infrastructure to prevent urban flooding and to help communities that are most vulnerable to climate change. And we will invest in new environmental justice initiatives for communities that have long shouldered the burden of environmental harm.
Here in Chicago, thanks to Mayor Lightfoot's leadership, we are deeply focused on equitable economic development and even more focused on making sure that that economic development and our recovery coming out of COVID happens in the right places all throughout Chicago. Another example of our focus on equitable economic development is the Chicago Recovery Plan. Now, this was a over $1.2 billion economic program that was backed both with funds from the Biden administration, but also Mayor Lightfoot matched that funding with the first ever economic development bond in the city's history. Some of the programs are our Corridor Ambassador program, where across 12 neighborhoods in the city, we have 100 people who are on the main commercial retail strips, greeting people as they shop. It's creating jobs, it's helping create a safer city, and it's creating opportunity for so many residents. Another great example is our community development grants. Well over $100 million is going to support economic development projects throughout the city. And these are catalytic projects that really can help create more amenities in your neighborhood. So moving forward, why is this budget so important? This budget is going to double down on Mayor Lightfoot's commitment to equitable economic recovery and focus on economic development in the communities that need it the most.